The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
Welcome back again. Hi, this is Arlene. You're listening to Durian ASEAN. We are now at our ASEAN breakfast call, Blast from the Grassroots slot. And we have our co-host, of course, Gowri, and also our today's guest, Syar, as Alia. She is the editor for Issue magazine.
Hello.
Hi. So, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. How are you guys this morning?
Well, I wasn't feeling well since yesterday, but just pushing on myself. But we had a great chat on the news commentary on ASEAN News.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm fine, by the way.
Thanks for asking.
So today we are going to talk about Issue magazine. As far as I know, Issue magazine is something that it's a platform for people, especially locals, to put in their creative work and share it online. Yeah. And it's free.
Yes, it's completely free.
And it is also a bi-monthly online publication where they have different theme every issue.
Yep, that's right. So if I can explain
a little
bit
go
about
ahead.
That.
Yeah, so introduction.
Yeah, so Issue Magazine started 2 years ago as a podcast, which is an element that we've kind of not been really working on in the past few issues. But from the podcast, it grew into a magazine. And then from the idea of an online magazine, it grew into the idea of having a platform to allow collaboration and curation and also creation for things. The team was frustrated, I guess, with the lack of spaces for young...
When was that, by the way?
It was in 2012. So 2 years ago. And we were frustrated by the lack of spaces for contemporary urban Malaysian voices, I suppose.
At the time, what were the platform that you
that we knew of? Online, probably not as many or as widespread. Probably just more traditional things like newspapers and magazines and journals. And we were looking for something a little more literary. Not to say that we're very literary, but just a place for things like short stories, a place for things like poetry, a place for things like creative nonfiction. That felt like not something that people wanted to see a whole publication on, that we could see, But now, the minute we started it, we started to see all these small other groups and other publications trying to do the same things, and that was really cool to find out that other people felt the same way we did. So we started that. We wanted a place for people like us to write, but with kind of an added element of editing involved and working on your pieces, so it's not just like blogging. So we tried to keep the gatekeepers in place without the gatekeeper mentality.
Well, how did you get the word out when you first started?
It was a lot of really like abusing our networks, just spamming our friends. But it was a lot of emails to strategic people. It was a lot of social media. Slowly, after about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year, or a little bit less than a year, we started doing events, or we tried to do as many live things as possible, to go to certain festivals. We did something with Have Faith Malaysia for their event last year, and we did a little showcase. And we also try to do we do a lot of interviews for our own magazine. So when we talk to the people that we interview, we try and also get them to spread the word. So we did like Josie Day of Tropfest Asia and the Georgetown Festival, and then we did Liana Fizi and Al Samad. So we tried to kind of like not be, we didn't try to crowd ourselves with a small magazine mentality. But
we tried to be mainstream in a way.
We tried to. I mean, we tried to get people that we thought our readers would be interested in, but also mainly just we tried to get people we were interested in talking to, because that was how it started to begin with. We were interested in talking to each other and to other people.
I see. So how did it started, the first issue? How was it?
Right. So this was March 2012, just to time travel. I had just finished uni. So all our team, there's about 6 of us in the core team. Most of us know each other from studying in Melbourne. So my two other editors were the 3 main movers of issue, I suppose, Al and Lutfi. They called me up after I came back to Malaysia and said, would you like to be interviewed for a podcast? I had just done an honors project that was autobiographical, and it was on death. And they were like, we want to talk to you about that because it's like, we haven't really heard of anyone doing electronic literature, which is what I did. So I was like, okay. So I showed up to Al's house like 2 hours before I had to leave for a wedding.
Okay.
And then I recorded the podcast for an hour. And then I was just like, okay, guys, like I have to go. This is really fun. Tell me how it turns out or whatever happens to this. I'll see you later. And then like a month after that, I was off to Europe for 3 months. And in the middle of my Europe trip, I get an email from Lutfi going, we're turning it into a magazine. And I was like, oh, okay. So they launched it in June 2012. I, at that point, wasn't yet an editor. I was just a contributor.
Okay.
So the first theme was loss. So they kind of based it around the topics that we talked about in the podcast. And then we had other contributions like illustrations, short stories. And then they decided they were going to do it monthly. So for a year, we did one every month. So we did 13 themes. And then last year, June 2013, we decided to go bi-monthly, so once every 2 months. So that's how it started.
Yeah, I can see you have different themes in different issue, and in fact, the themes are very vague, but at the same time, interesting. Like the second issue was self-discovery, and the third one, comfort, for purpose, and so on. So how did you actually select a theme? Is it like naturally, it's like, okay, today we are going to talk about
and
purpose?
probably which one was the most popular one?
Okay. Good question. Well, on the topic of how we picked it it in batches. So the first 6 issues were we already picked it when they first started out, because I think you want to have like a good backlog of like, okay, you want to know the answer when someone asks, what's the next theme, and not just come up with it. So they're vague because we try as best as possible not to be too specific, but also not too general, because we want people to be able to connect to the words but also to give them enough space to explore the words. So when you have something like addiction, we don't want to think just about like drug addiction and
not just substance
not
addiction.
just substance abuse, exactly. And what else could that word mean? We're always pushing people. One of the main things we send out to people when they submit is just like push beyond the first instinct, push beyond the first association you make with the word. As for the most popular, oh God, I should know this because I have to check the statistics every day. I do know that comfort and addiction, I think, were the biggest issues. We had like 20 posts per issue. That was quite huge because usually we have about 10 to 12.
Right.
The most popular is probably recent. It might have been maybe birth recently, or it changes. So I know birth was popular. Youth was really popular. We also had a collaboration with Taylor's University students there, so I think they brought new eyes to the content. So those are some of the ones that I can remember being really popular. Yeah.
So how do you decide? Like, let's say I'm a contributor writer. How do I decide what to write for that particular issue? Do you like explain to it like 2 months before, like, okay, on this particular month we are going to do this issue?
We try and give we have at least 3 themes in advance on our blog, and then promotions on social network happen about a month and a half beforehand. So it's like once we're announcing, because we publish on the 15th of every other month. So once we're announcing, like, okay, the theme for this month is, skin, and then the theme for and then it's like, oh, have you submitted for skin yet? Just so you know, the theme after that. Yeah, so we try and give it at least two themes in advance. In terms of what to write, we try and leave it really open, and we especially love multimedia work. So if you're combining illustration with words, or video with sound, or sound with words, we really like that kind of experimentation. So if someone writes something, we might find another space for it. We're like, okay, why don't you team up with this illustrator, this photographer, because that's where the platform part comes in, I think. But ultimately, we try not to restrict people, even with word counts, So we have been, I suppose, quote unquote, guilty of posting things that are like 8,000 words. And people are like, who's reading this? It's like, it doesn't matter. It's online. It's free. People are reading it.
So how did you spread the word about Issue Magazine?
It was just, we constantly emailed.
You don't do the traditional marketing or promotion?
Not really. I mean, we have a journalist, a freelance writer, and a PR person on our team. So Lutfi is super good at networking. We usually just leave it to him because he goes to events, he passes out cards, and he does the on the ground kind of getting to know people. But mainly it's just we find people online. we have had a lot of luck just emailing people and going like, we're really interested in your work. Can we talk to you, or can you send something to us? And, you know, we usually have to be like, we're so sorry, we have no money. And they're just like, it's fine, we'll help you out. This sounds okay. So we've been really lucky in that sense. So yeah, it's, I guess, I mean, not to make it sound too easy, because it has been hard work, but if anyone out there ever doubts the virtue of just emailing someone, I can vouch for it. It works. You know, if you like someone's work, you should just tell them and then hope for the best.
Well, I can seriously say that you have really seriously good content here. But you're talking about no money, right? How do you find yourself and still like produce like, you know, great work?
Oh, what a question. We have to answer this quite a lot, because we have to talk about it quite a lot in our team. Because when it started, it was really, you know, as you can tell from the origin story, we'd never thought, oh, this is where it's going to end up. So we didn't really have a plan. And it was always just a side project for us friends who that wanted to like talk to each other and be part of a community of creatives. So we were never thinking like, oh, this is going to be huge. It's just going to be a side project we do when we're not working on our real jobs, you know. And to this day, we all still have day jobs to an extent, you know. And we had so many talks about it. It's been on so many meeting minutes, like, are we going to talk about making money here or advertising? And we're just like, nah, it's working okay, because we're hosted on a free website. You know, we had to switch it to bi-monthly because we didn't have the time to keep doing it monthly. I mean, that's one of the consequences of not having a budget. You just have to like figure out your capacity as a team that's working on this kind of pro bono, I suppose. But we all really love it. So I think money was never really that much of an issue for us. We always just thought, everyone else thinks we should be making money, so maybe we should be making money. But ultimately, we're like, you know, our contributors have never really complained about, you know, we wish we could pay contributors. That's probably our main thing. But so far, I think we tried our best to make, if you come to issue, we hope the experience is useful and worthy enough that the money doesn't really matter.
But in the future, do you think you want to have a more sustainable model?
I think absolutely, yeah, for sure. I think we tested the limits of this model, and it's led to the reason that we've decided to close shop. Not to say that, like, if I had to do issue all over again, I'd probably do it exactly the same way. But now that we know, should we work together again for another publication in the future? You carry that those lessons with you. Yeah, it wasn't super sustainable in the end because of the workload and just how big it got. You know, we said before that our capacity didn't match the places it was going, so we kind of had to let it go. Yeah,
it's like that song from Passenger.
Oh God, yes. Cue song from Passenger. Yeah, it is. We have to let it go.
Well, okay, not to talk too much on the sad part, but just on a very interesting part of this magazine. Like, I think there's a reason why it gone too big. I mean, just a question that I want to pose to you. Do you think there's a similar kind of literary in like yours, either it's paid or it's free in Malaysia right now, in the Malaysian market?
I think they're very the thing that we kept seeing in our 2 years were that there are very many various small pockets of creative endeavors like ours happening, but we all kind of don't know about each other. We're all just living in these tiny bubbles. Like, we met so many interesting people. You know, I could list a few websites. Like, we met these people called Curasian, which were doing sort of the same things we were, and we're focusing on Southeast Asian voices and Malaysian voices. There's the New Forward, focusing on creative design kind of in Southeast Asia. And there's all these new things happening, but I think they're experiencing, not to speak for them, but from my experience, they're maybe experiencing the same sustainability issues. And when you're in a bubble, you don't get enough support. And you're just, you know, after a year, we had exhausted all of our networks. You know, everyone knew that we were working on issue. Like, we needed to expand. We tried as best as we could to expand past our friends in terms of telling them about issue. But I would say literary-wise, like places for short stories and creative writing, there are places, but it's not well known about. And it's just we're all working in these silos. And a lot of the later part of issue was trying to connect and trying to find other people to work with. Like, finding out about Durian ASEAN was really great as well, knowing that this was a project that we could, be a part of even for a little bit. So, but it's like those kind of belated. I'm sure the minute we close up shop is going to be like, oh, look at these 5 literary magazines you've never heard of. But that's great. I want more people to do these kind of things here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good push. But have you ever thought of going to do print?
Yeah, we've definitely thought about it, and we're still sort of considering maybe doing one print issue. I mean, knock on wood that can happen for like a best hits, like best stuff.
Probably
Yeah.
the
After
compilation.
because we stopped, our last issue is the 19th issue, and we kind of like ending on the 20th would be a nicer number. I mean, not to promise anything, but we're
At least on the 20th, there's a full round number to
yeah,
it.
exactly. That's right. It's like, oh, we came up with 19 issues. Sounds a bit weird. Like, we came out with 20 issues. Sounds better. So we've thought about that. But in terms of distribution, when you start with like zero budget, it's really hard to dream that big. It's both easy and hard to dream that big because it's always like, let's do a hardcover, beautiful, all color, and then after a while it's like, let's just photocopy it and then staple it and give it to people.
And that's what I saw in Arts for Grabs.
Zines,
zines, and one of it is called New Village. I don't know if you heard of it before.
That's one that I missed. New Village was another. When you were asking about literary magazines, they do great stuff. Their stuff is beautiful,
and they do print ones.
Yeah,
but I think print one will be much better because it's a copy, so you can actually keep it. And
I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons to print versus online, and we've thought about it. We all love like physical books, and I mean, we're very geeky bookworms, all of us. But it was also, we had to work with what we have, and ultimately we thought, like as an example, when we did the interview with Liana Fizi for issue number 11, Money. Her manager and a few other people that we interviewed after that, who like musicians and stuff, they were like, "Oh, we read that interview. It was quite long, not something that you usually see on like a music interview for an artist. It was about 2,500 words, and
wow.
I wrote that, and it was a really good interview. I thought, I had a really good time doing it with Lutfi and with our friend Lynam. And I mean, Liana liked it, and I thought we could really go in depth on issues. And I thought this wasn't really something that you could do in a print publication, especially an existing one, because they would obviously we need space for advertisers. You can't just go on for 5 billion pages on one thing. So you have that flexibility as an online media, and you also have things like videos and audio and the ability to experiment. So we tried, as much as we would have loved to do a print issue, we tried to maximize the potential of it being an online platform. Yeah.
Do you have maybe like a really memorable experience or your favorite part of doing this?
Yeah, I have a few. It's been, I think my main thing is people.
Okay.
So probably my first big experience is getting an artist emailed us and said,
Okay.
I'd like to feature my work in your, it was an international artist. I was like, how did you hear from us? We're in Toronto. I looked at his website, and he, when you're really impressed by things that maybe other people aren't impressed by. I'm not to say he's not impressive, but he had worked in galleries, he had installations, he was a proper working artist who had gone to art school, and he was like, I want to put my work on your website for no money. It's fine. His name was Joshua Vetvelu, and we had a really great discussion because he's an Indian artist, with Indian heritage. So I talked about that, and he's also gay. So I talked about basically his identity and how it tied into Southeast Asian kind of values and stuff. So I thought that was a really nice meld, and we had.
He's from Southeast Asia.
He's South Indian. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So I thought the cultural kind of there's parallels, not to say that they're exactly similar. And then another artist, Nina Muritzen, she's a photographer. She got in touch with us just out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, your photos are great. And I went to her website, and she had photographed Kate Moss. She had photographed Tegan and Sarah. She had photographed all these bands and stuff. And I'm like, who are these people? How did they find out about us? We had another small gallery in London, literally the size of a closet. That's their shtick, and called Broom. They called us and they were like, they emailed us and were like, we'd like to feature your magazine in an exhibition on digital magazines. And I was like, again, we did a little video, and it got screened in a small gallery in London. Like, none
Oh,
of us
that's so
saw it, but-
awesome.
yeah, and so I mean, I don't want to. I mean, those three examples are all international, but you know, that same feeling of having someone be in touch with you about their work to share with you, that I felt that way, and I think all of our editors have felt that way about someone in like a 17-year-old in Klanajaya or a 25-year-old in, you know, like Penang or whatever, talking to us about their work. That is always the best part, where it's like, oh my God, they want to share it with us. They want to put it on our magazine. Like, you know, we were talking earlier about our friend Kim Kyra from Penang, to get her art on, that was the theme that I curated, Other, which was last December or October. And to get her art on our site was, for me, like a real win. I was like, oh my God, you know, once I found out she did paintings, we had never really had paintings before. So it's just those little small victories. Those are like really memorable for me.
And that's like the entire purpose of Issue Magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. The comments really, like, the people that have said, we really love what you're doing and we really love the spirit behind what you're doing and we really want to share our work with you, those people have made it all. Like, that's the whole reason we do it, you know? When we're thinking about money or not being able to do a print issue, I try very hard to remember that's what we're doing it for. And
So what's the future for Issue Magazine?
Oh, okay.
I know you're going to have a party or an event.
Yes, we have an
for
event
the last
an
issue.
event for the last issue. So our last issue is themed Exit, and it's coming out June 15th. And we're having a photo shoot and collaborative recording session this Saturday in Klanajaya. The event's on Facebook. And what we're aiming to do is basically to get as many faces of our friends and supporters and also their voices as possible into the last issue. So we're hoping to do just a very simple photo shoot. We're going to have props that say Exit and that kind of stuff, just fun things to get people to stage things. And then the recording will be a collaborative story. So what we're hoping to do is to get people to come in with one statement and one question based on the theme.
Okay.
And then we're going to stitch it all together into a story. So they're not going to know the outcome. So it's going to be really nonsensical. So it could be like Arlene asks a question and then your statement from an hour later that has nothing to do with the question. So hopefully that turns out.
So is the event open for everyone?
Yes, it's open for everyone. The space is one of our actual houses. So the address is only going to be released on Facebook. But we're at Issue Magazine on Facebook, so you can find the event there.
Yeah, maybe we'll put up the link on our page.
We should definitely. Well, I really definitely hope that this will not be the last, even though you say it's the last.
I mean, we
you should definitely find a sustainable model.
We're keeping everything open. We're keeping our archives and our social networks open. So, I mean, everything's still going to be there. And obviously, we might still have our final 20th issue.
And a print one, hopefully.
Yeah, and a print one. So I think this year you'll still hear from Issue. And, you know, the Issue team, I think, love working together. So, yeah, crossed fingers that this isn't the final closing of the chapter. Maybe it's closing a chapter, but not closing the book.
Yeah.
So all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
It was lovely talking to you.
Welcome.